Thank you so much, Tom, for being with me. This is Tom Green, everyone, an amazing composer who my family members have fallen in love with first. So I've got him on this show to see what all the fuss is about. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah. How you going? That was a cool intro.
Thanks. So you've got a launch. Let's talk about your launch. You've written a string quartet, haven't you? Let's go. Tell us the details about that.
Well, it's my second string quartet. I've had some really good fortune with getting involved with a group called the Black Square Quartet, and they are a little independent group in Brisbane. They're not affiliated with anyone. They've just come together and started to play together, and that is the Black Square Quartet. That is Camille Barry, who's the violinist, and Michael Patterson, who is the other violinist, and Charlotte Burbrook de Vere. So, and somebody who you're familiar with is Daniel Kuro, who's your little bro.
My little bro, that's right. I have more fights with him about music than anyone else.
Oh, well, I'm sure he has more fights with everybody else about music than anybody else. So,
Absolutely. And so you're launching on Friday, is that right? So we can look for that. We'll be plugging that, everyone. So what's the quartet called?
okay. The my quartet is called it started off being String Quartet 2 because I'm hopeless at names, but then it was actually commissioned as a dance work, and it's in 5 movements. So I've ended up sort of subtitling it five. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at being put on the spot.
Oh, I'm going to put you on the spot
Sorry,
even more.
it's such a simple title as well. How could I forget it? It's called Five Quick Tempered Dances.
Ah, beautiful.
So
5 quick tempo dances.
quick tempered because I wrote it last year. Camille asked me to write the quartet, and it was right in the middle of the whole bananas going on with COVID, and so many musicians I know having in absolute dire straits because of limitations on their performing. I mean, this is not news to anybody, but that was the situation. I was sort of holed up in my little cave. I guess it affected some of us in different ways. I was actually fortunate in that I'm a very isolated, independent person, and I really was able to knuckle down and, I don't want to say I enjoyed the time. Well, I did. I actually enjoyed the time being holed away and creating things. But at the same time, it was so nerve-wracking watching all of this unfold, especially for other people who I know who are directly affected by it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of calling this music Five Anxious Stanches or something like that, but I didn't want to go down the anxiety road too much. But anyway, the music is quite anxious, so I ended up going with Quick Tempered because ready to flare up at any moment,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. And your inspiration for string quartet, I mean, I know you as an electronic music experimenter. Now, is that wrong?
No,
That's who you are, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
what made you delve into string quartets? I know you've written an article about the importance of string quartets and so on. What attracted you to string quartets?
Well, I was actually more of a classical musician growing up than anything else. Having said that, I was never a very good performer, but my earliest musical experiences are sitting down listening to my parents' LPs, which were all classical music. My parents didn't have any pop records in the house, as far as I know. I mean, they might have had a couple of old things, but mostly it was classical on vinyl, and that's that's what I listened to for the first 15 years of my life. And it was really only in late high school where I was making friends with interesting musicians, and they showed me all of this other stuff. One of my very earliest experiences of moving away from classical music, not the first one by any means, but definitely in my formative period, was a friend of mine, Sam Vincent. He's a double bass player, electric bass player. He's in trichotomy. I went to school with him. I think it was him who introduced me to Aphex Twin, who's an electronic musician from the UK. It does nothing like classical music, but actually it's well known that classical musicians love Aphex Twin.
Yep.
Nobody knows why. We don't know why. We don't need to really get into too much detail about that. But so I was sort of wrapped up with Aphex Twin for a long time. It was a long time before I investigated how that music is actually created. I sort of assumed I could do it eventually, but I really didn't have any idea how. And in the meantime, I listened to a lot of other electronic music as well, a lot of stuff from the UK and Warp Records and Ninja Tune, and also getting into a lot of hip hop and other kind of underground music, which is informed by electronic devices.
Yeah, well, we're a good age for this kind of variety in music, aren't we? And so, but I'll ask again, what brings you back to 19th/18th century mode using instruments that are, 17th century technology? I mean, how could that possibly appeal to you?
Yeah, well, it's technology. That's the key word. I think as I've gotten older, I make less and less, the technology for me is what I'm wrapped up in. I love music technology, but I don't see a piano or a violin as being any lesser artifact of technology than a synthesizer, which I've got sitting behind me here. So they're all sophisticated devices and they all do special things. The other thing is that, I think lots of musicians like yourself and many other people are interested in all kinds of music, but most of you have had the good sense to knuckle down and focus on one thing as your output primarily. Whereas that, I don't know why I never did that, but I decided I wanted to do a bunch of different things.
Yeah, well, that leads to it, but just don't forget, though, that leads to an awful lack of creative energy when you do knuckle down and just do one thing, like practice and read music that someone else has written, because that's what we've all knuckled down to do. So lucky for you that you got 4 players there, absolutely dedicated to knuckling down and reading other people's music.
Yeah, I mean, different personalities, and I'm an oddball in a way. I still do perform. I shouldn't undersell myself too much, but I do electronic music as a performance thing, but I don't focus on any kind of virtuosic delivery. I don't have particularly good technique. I'm not particularly skilled in the way that my associates are skilled. And so I really value working with people who can really play the thing,
And realise music that is perhaps beyond your... you don't play stringed instruments either, so it must be really amazing as a composer to write a string quartet. That's really hard. I've heard it rehearsed in my lounge room. Really difficult music, coming to life, being meticulously realised. It must be just the best feeling.
It's brilliant. I mean, that's one of my motivations for doing it. Is to try and convey some of that feeling. It's not just making sounds. It's sitting down in a lounge room with a group of these people who have dedicated their lives to enhancing themselves in this very specific way. And I think that us as musicians, sometimes we might take that a little bit for granted. But it's actually this incredible thing to sit with this group of people just a few feet away from them and have them deliver this stuff, even in just its rehearsal format.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the feeling of that is just something, that feeling of being that enmeshed with the group. That's what I'm always trying to, that energy is what I'm trying to put into the music.
And you talk about this in your article about string quartets. It's like this incredibly intimate experience, and the experience you have creating this music and then putting it through for human beings instead of a processing device or computer program or whatever. You're putting it through these humans, and it's not romantic music. It's modern music. It's contemporary music. It's arguably could be played on a machine. So especially because your music's quite rhythmic, and I've seen the detail that these guys bring to it in terms of meticulousness, togetherness, metronomic approach to it. 'Cause it's rhythmic music. What's the difference between that and just putting it through MIDI? Because actually there are some amazing MIDI samples now that would do just nicely.
I do love that question because I do make electronic music.
I know you do.
And it's such an interesting thing because there are paradigms in the electronic music world, and even in pop music, which today is very close to electronic music. I mean, a lot of contemporary pop music is essentially electronic music, and those paradigms are informed by there's this kind of complex combination of what people have designed into the machines and what has come from the machines and is directing people in ways that they might not even know they're being directed. One of them is that there tends to be very mechanical tempos, and that is generally something that listeners are accustomed to and that they want out of electronic music. They want it to sound like machines. They want it to sound mechanical.
Yeah,
and that
I do.
is part of this. It's part of a kind of a broader the sound of our time.
Yep.
Some of the first electronic sound creators. I've forgotten the names of the people, but there's a group in the UK. They took a computer out of an old cannery. When we say computer, I'm talking like a very primitive computer by today's standards, but they use that to create the sequencer for their and so it's literally taking a process from an industrial process and using that to generate musical sequences. But that's I think that what people have become I think people have these days less familiar than they might be with the way that expression in tempo and rhythm can be a very organic thing.
Yep.
And that's where the string quartet is on has a very different pathway. I guess it's not unique in that way. Any instrumental, any chamber music has that ability to, all of its tempo decisions, all of its rhythm decisions are dictated by somebody's brain, which is an organic thing. And it has this way of wavering, and I know that Dan, your brother, sometimes really gets annoyed by that because it's not being mechanical enough. But actually, the tempo variations are very beautiful when they are what they need to be. And
yes, he has a puritanical approach to rhythm, and I absolutely agree with you. And you can see it in the way he.
I hope he doesn't watch this. He'll get angry at me.
He's not on Facebook. He couldn't care less. And I'll say it to his face. Actually, in the 19th century, as you really beautifully bring up, there was rubato everywhere. The concept of metronomic playing is like a 1950s, 60s kind of thing.
And I mean, I don't want to diss Dan because he does know this, of course.
Of course he does, and he applies that to romantic music constantly. He gets irritated if people don't follow that idea. And I guess that's what I like about Dan. He's puritanical in his different categories of different kinds of music. So I sort of admire what he tried to do with what they achieved with your piece, bringing a mechanical metronomic situation to your music. But then my next question is, why not do it on electric instruments in that case?
There is in the whole quartet, and it's not out there yet. So you'll need to listen to the whole thing. But it is actually pretty varied in its. It has definite. It's definitely up tempo all the time because it's dance music, and I love dance music for me is across. In fact, I'll go so far as to say is I only ever write dance music. In one way or another, go back to Aphex Twin. I suppose there's a lot of people who have actually literally danced to Aphex Twin's music, but also it's a stylized form of dance music. So you just as easily listen to it as something that's just listenable. Likewise with my string quartet music, it's sort of stylized dance music, but it's very up tempo. But yeah, I do rely on that organic, the performers processing that, and it's collaborative as well. It's got to. I mean, when I'm working on electronic music these days, I'm working in a duo, and that's collaboration in a different way. And the string quartet is this very integral collaboration, and I'm really actually no longer interested in making music that hasn't got some kind of strongly collaborative element.
Okay, so you're coming out of your shell a little bit, Tom. That's great. That's fantastic. All right, cool. Well, let's just talk about the launch again. What's going to happen? Is it a Facebook Live? Is it what is it? What form does this launch take on Friday?
The string quartet, that's an EP. We're just releasing it. Actually, it's independent. So we aren't going through a label or anything like that. But that's why I'm very grateful for you to chat to me, because we need to.
Yeah, and so where can we buy it? On Facebook? Links?
I mean, I'll send you some links, but it will be on Spotify and iTunes and all of that kind of thing.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that all goes into the YouTube link about this. Well, delighted to talk to you, and I hope it goes well. I'm going to plug the hell out of this, Tom, because your music is absolutely beautiful. And the next thing you're going to write for string quartet, it just has to be for electric. Sorry, that's my commission to you. All right.
Hey.
Excellent.
Another huge challenge.
Yeah, don't worry. You can do it. I know you can. Now I know what all the fuss is about. So love your work, Tom. Thanks a lot for talking to me.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. See you, darling.
Bye-bye.